Summer camp is a world built on trust. Parents hand over their children, believing they'll be safe, cared for, and return home with happy memories. The air at camp is filled with pine, sunscreen, and bug spray. A world of firsts. First time away, first campfire, first taste of independence. Counselors, often just a few years older, become admired guides. We trust them to teach us, comfort us, and keep us safe. The rules: never wander off, wear your life jacket, always have a buddy, are repeated daily, woven into camp life. We learn to equate rules with care, obedience with safety. This lesson makes us vulnerable in ways we don't yet understand. But what happens when that trust is broken? When the person meant to protect uses their authority to prey? The camp's isolation and power dynamics can become a predator's hunting ground. Systems designed for safety can be twisted into tools of manipulation. The line between care and control blurs, and comforting rituals can take on a sinister meaning. The magic of camp can hide a darkness that lingers long after the last campfire. The trust that makes camp magical is also what makes it dangerous when abused. We rarely question those in charge, believing their authority is always for our good. But when that trust is exploited, the very structure meant to protect becomes a shield for harm. The lessons of camp, obedience, trust, routine, can be used against us. The story that follows is not just about summer camp, but about the dangers of misplaced trust. It's about how the systems we rely on can be turned into cages, and how we must learn to see the warning signs. Camp Whispering Pines was idyllic. Rustic cabins, a blue lake, laughter echoing through the woods. Safety was the camp's core value, embodied in nightly headlamp checks. As dusk fell, every camper and counselor lined up for inspection. Headlamps on, batteries checked, names marked on clipboards. This ritual became a symbol of care, a comforting routine that made the darkness feel safe. The counselors took it seriously, reinforcing the idea that adults were always thinking of every detail. For the girls, the glow of headlamps was a nightly reassurance. No one questioned the process. It made perfect sense in the wilderness. The headlamp was more than a tool. It was a symbol of the camp's promise to protect. But even the most sensible routines can be used for other purposes. The girls trusted the ritual, never imagining it could be twisted. In the safety of routine, vigilance faded. The headlamp checks meant to keep them safe became something else in the wrong hands. Sometimes the things that make us feel safest are the very things that make us most vulnerable. Among the counselors, Mr. Anderson stood out for his obsessive attention to detail. He carried a leather-bound notebook, recording not just headlamp status, but brands, battery life, and which girls forgot their lamps. His diligence was praised as professionalism, an extension of the camp's safety-first philosophy. But his ledger held more than equipment notes. It contained observations about the girls themselves. He tracked who was quiet, who seemed lonely, who rarely got mail from home. Under the guise of safety, he was building profiles of vulnerability. The girl who forgot her headlamp, the one who seemed lost. These names appeared most in his book. His record-keeping allowed him to operate in plain sight, shielded by the language of safety. No one questioned his methods. He was the responsible counselor, the one with extra batteries. But his ledger was not about safety, it was a hunting log. Mr. Anderson's meticulous notes were a mask, hiding predatory intent behind a facade of care. He used the camp's trust to select and isolate his targets. The very routines meant to protect became his tools. His actions were invisible, camouflaged by the rules everyone trusted. The ledger grew thicker each week, a silent record of betrayal. In the world of camp, He was a model counselor. In reality, he was something far more dangerous. Night hikes were a summer highlight, adventures through the woods, guided by headlamps. For Mr. Anderson, they were opportunities to use his system. Before each hike, he consulted his ledger, calling out girls with unreliable lamps to walk at the front or back. This allowed him to isolate them, separating them from friends under the pretense of safety. During the hike, he'd stop the group, citing a flickering lamp as a reason to pull a girl aside. These moments seemed like responsible acts, but they were calculated. To others, Mr. Anderson was just being careful. The girls felt embarrassed, but also grateful for the attention. They didn't see the pattern. The lamp was just an excuse. The hikes, meant to build confidence, became a stage for manipulation. The system worked because it looked like care. No one suspected the real reason for his choices. The girls trusted the process, never realizing it was being used against them. The darkness of the woods hid more than shadows. It hid the true nature of Mr. Anderson's control. The adventure became a trap, disguised as protection. The line between safety and danger was invisible until it was too late. Mr. Anderson's genius was that he rarely broke rules. He weaponized them. He hid behind procedures, using the camp's own policies as cover, assigning positions on hikes, pulling girls aside for safety checks, all justified by the rulebook. His authority came from his reputation as the ultimate rule follower. This made his actions invisible to peers and superiors. The girls he targeted were trapped by logic. How do you complain about someone enforcing safety? To question him was to question the entire system. His surveillance was framed as personalized care. Other counselors saw a role model. The director saw a star employee. He built a fortress of rules around himself, impenetrable from the outside. Inside, he was free to select and groom his victims. Procedure became his shield and his weapon. For years, the experiences at Whispering Pines were isolated memories, strange moments, hard to name. A woman might recall being singled out for a flickering headlamp, or the feeling of being watched. These weren't stories of overt abuse, but of a subtle wrongness. The dam broke online with a blog post. Did this happen to anyone else? The responses came, a flood of women with the same story, the ledger, the headlamp checks, the feeling of being targeted. Mr. Anderson's name appeared again and again. What was once a blurry memory became a clear, collective picture. They were not alone. Their instincts had been right. A sisterhood formed, not in a cabin, but in a comment section. The pain of understanding what had happened was real, but so was the validation. They had been part of a deliberate pattern. By sharing their stories, they pieced together the full mosaic of Mr. Anderson's methods. The shadow that followed them out of the woods finally had a name. In sharing, they reclaimed their power. Mr. Anderson's story is a case study in how protection can become control. Systems meant to keep children safe can be twisted into tools for exploitation. Predators thrive in rigid, rule-bound environments, using structure as cover. Every safety procedure, hall passes, sign-out sheets, attendance logs can be manipulated. We're conditioned to equate safety with control, but that's a dangerous assumption. True safety is about culture, not just rules. It's about empowering children to speak up and training adults to recognize subtle manipulation. A culture of safety encourages questions. A culture of control demands silence. Mr. Anderson's ledger was a tool for identifying vulnerability, not protection. He didn't break down walls. He used the keys handed to him. The lesson: the systems we build to keep monsters out can become their hiding places. Safety without heart can become a cage. We must look beyond rules to the culture we create. Before the women of Whispering Pines found each other, they all had a feeling. A knot in the stomach, a prickle on the neck. As girls, they were taught to dismiss their intuition in favor of adult authority. The rules are for your own good, they were told. This internal conflict is the most damaging aspect of manipulation. It teaches children to distrust their own instincts. When safety is used to justify what feels wrong, children are pressured to ignore their alarm bells. We must teach that instinct is intelligence, a warning that deserves to be heard. If a situation feels off, it probably is. We need a world where a child can say, "This makes me uncomfortable," and be met with curiosity, not dismissal. Validating these feelings is crucial. Trusting your gut is not rebellion, it's self-preservation. Instinct is the oldest safety rule of all. Empower children to trust themselves, even when the rules say otherwise. The story of the counselor who counted headlamps is a dark fable for our time. It reminds us that evil often hides behind rules, not threats. The women who spoke out did more than expose one predator. They lit a beacon for others. We must create spaces where these stories can be told and heard. This isn't about fear, but about awareness. Systems are only as good as the people who run them, and even the best have blind spots. Talk openly about how authority can be misused, even when no rules are broken. Ask not just about safety rules, but about cultures of trust and empowerment. If a memory from your past is stirred, know you're not alone. Your story has power. Sharing it can be healing and empowering. Through sharing, we map the shadows and learn to recognize patterns of manipulation. Only then can we ensure the lights meant to guide our children are never used to lead them into darkness.